Welcome to the Viva Vegan Minisode with me, Faye.
And me, Issy.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about speciesism. Issy, would you like to for our viewers, just talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so speciesism is a concept, so it's kind of a pretense or a word that not a lot of people know. I actually was speaking to Steph, who runs the organisation Speciesism WTF, I think it stands for the naughty F word, unfortunately. But I've got a podcast launching with her so you can hear more about what she talks about. But she was talking about speciesism, and speciesism basically is loving a dog whilst eating a pig. So it's the whole pretense of one animal being superior to another animal. So her concept of speciesism WTF and her whole kind of organisation and everything came out of her talent as a filmmaker. She is a filmmaker and artist, and she wanted to bring this into activism, basically. So she thought to tackle the dairy industry first. You can listen to the podcast for more information as to why. But the whole thing with this is these installations that are human. So humans are being milked, and where they're being milked outside on the streets, it started in a billboard campaign, and now it's humans outside on the streets, which is really cool. And I actually was one of the milked women on Saturday.
She was. Well, when she says milked women.
Well, yeah. I was being milked.
Yeah, and it's an amazing art piece because, you know, you've got the women holding up signs to kind of draw attention to the plight that these cows suffer and in the dairy industry. And as we know, as humans, we shouldn't be drinking another species' milk. Yeah. And so it was really highlighting that, and it was great for you to get involved with that.
Yeah, so it was a collaboration event on Saturday with Speciesism, Viva and We the Free, so 3 activism groups, which is amazing. They all do, We the Free is obviously an outreach organisation, Speciesism's art, and Viva, well, you know us.
Well,
hopefully, yeah. But, you know, it's 3 different activism groups, and it was really cool because we stood outside of the Arnolfi, I think that's the right gallery.
Oh, the Arnolfi.
Is that right? Yeah, I think I've got that right. The gallery in Bristol, and they were showing they had a new exhibition for Mother's Day, and International Women's Day, and it was highlighting women. So it's highlighting motherhood. So it was called Art of Creation Motherhood or something like that. And the cover photo that they chose was a woman sitting in a bathtub surrounded by dairy cows, and the caption was, "I drink your milk and now the cow drinks mine," or something like that, which in itself is a bit strange, a bit bestiality, if you ask me, to be honest. But that was the whole concept of the thing. And it was talking about, like, you know, people passing by and being disturbed by seeing women, human women, being milked and coming to that conclusion by themselves. And it was really interesting because we had like people being like, "Try our human milk," and these had been milked just from these women. And people were like, "Ooh, that's disgusting." And that is the reaction that, you know, I have when it comes to dairy from cows. Yeah. Like, you know, it's not an attractive thing for me. No. And it's not attractive for anyone. And the second the public walking past on their Sunday or Saturday walks, they see that and they are anti the ethics. They see it's ethically wrong. And then they make that communication, and what then happened is We the Free had their VR headsets where they could walk through a dairy farm, and Viva were there having conversations and handing out free vegan alternatives, which is really cool. And they had so many conversations. I think they spoke to they had 40 people try the headsets, so many countless conversations, which was incredible because we didn't have to do any "what do you think about this?" They came and had that conversation themselves, which is amazing that art does that.
It's great. It has that whole, that's the kind of the plus sides of collaborating as well, because we did the refreshers tour just before that, and we were showing people that with the headsets and we were having conversations. But when you've got a whole art space dedicated to it, it's just much more profound, I think.
Yeah, and you're right with collaboration, like that. Like I've said it so many times, and I will continue saying it. Activism is about using your skills and finding your way to be a voice for the animals. And this was so amazing because it was like 3 different groups with 3 different voices using their voices together. So it was something great to be a part of, and I think you know, you should look more into her work. She does amazing stuff, and she's doing installations all over. And I think if you listen to the podcast, she's hinted at potentially another industry that she will be challenging. So have a little look out for that one. I wonder what she's going to do next.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about going to see Christspiracy. So it's got a very limited run in the UK. It's going to be available on March the 20th. So we're going to get this edited and get this straight out. But yeah, March the 20th, Christspiracy is going to be available in some cinemas. It's really important as vegans and as the movement that we go along and support this, because the more people that go to see it, they've already said they'll consider to put on more kind of vegan showings, more showings of this film. It's a great documentary.
You've seen it, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I interviewed Kip recently for the podcast, and I've written a review in the next Viva Life for our supporters to read. It's great. He's tackled everything now. He's taken on the fishing industries, the meat industries. He's taken on big pharma and health and looking at misconceptions around vegan diets not being good for you. And this time, which other taboo is there left to explore at this point? Religion.
Yeah, it's interesting. As an activist that's done a lot of outreach, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners will have done a lot of conversations, or even conversations with family members and friends, religion will always come up. And I think you can be religious and vegan. We're not saying that to be vegan you are no longer religious, because none of the scriptures actually say that you can't be vegan. And that's what he's exploring, right?
Yeah, it hinges on, he's asked by a guy called Cameron, is there an ethical way to kill an animal? Obviously different religions practice different methods of slaughter. And also, how would Jesus kill an animal? And it's great. It's really good. I won't go into too much detail, but...
Do you want to spoil it?
I don't want to spoil it. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And there is a lot around St. Paul, who canonized the New Testament, and also around a lot of the disciples, his brother James, Jesus, the vegetarian aspects. I won't go into too much, but it's very, very good. And it's interesting. There's a lot of misconceptions. I've got Hindu neighbours. I thought I understood a bit about Buddhism and Hinduism as well. And obviously you hear about cows being sacred. And then you see how, unfortunately...
there was some drama about the Dalai Lama. I won't spoil it,
but
I heard about this.
Things have been hijacked, as we can expect, and businesses have kind of profited out of it, and it's brilliant.
I think it's also really important to support it, because you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Netflix wanted to censor it, is that right? So supporting it in the cinemas is incredibly important, because if streaming platforms want to censor it, well, we need to support it in any other way possible. Is that right?
I'm not 100% certain on that, but any kind of censorship is bad. And we know fine well if you buy content through Netflix and things, it could just be taken down at any time. So that's why I still buy books and DVDs.
Nice, I like that. Cool.
From Christspiracy as well, we've had quite a lot of really good vegan documentaries coming out at the moment.
Yeah, I think you and Rachel talked about Pignorant last time, didn't you?
Yeah, we touched on it. You've had some experiences recently, haven't you? You've been out and about with Joey.
Yeah, so if you've not watched the documentaries on Amazon Prime, we still need, Joey's still asking people to watch it and push it up the rankings in terms of popularity, so please do keep watching it, sharing it, suggesting it. A lot of my non-vegan friends have actually watched it because it's got more of a storyline and doesn't focus so much on the cruelty aspect. Obviously there is the cruelty aspect, but because there's a storyline, it's sort of easier for someone to follow, so would recommend it. But yes, he has, alongside his documentary, he's been running protests. So he did the first protest about two and a half weeks ago. And it was outside Pilgrim's HQ, so headquarters, up in the Midlands somewhere. And myself and campaigner James, so two of us, went up there and we joined him for that protest out there. And it was really interesting to be surrounded but by so many activists. It was so cool to do that, and to see Joey in action and to see how passionate he is, and Taryn as well, both of them such passionate activists. It was amazing. So that was really great, and it's really important that he talked about something. He talked about shame and stuff, and I personally don't think shame is a useful tactic. However, he was talking about it as corporations and big organizations that have a lot of money behind them. These are the ones that have to be shameful. These are the ones that could change and could make kind of ways of making food, which wouldn't involve killing animals. So if someone is worthy of shame, it definitely is a corporation. So it was really interesting to have that method and hear that from him and to hear that conversation, and I really enjoyed that protest. And he's now been running, he just previously last week, I think it finished last Thursday, he was doing some protests in London outside DEFRA, walking around the street. He did a joint action with We The Free, where they were doing 3-minute movie challenges and having conversations with people. And I think he's planning on doing more and more. There are some more in the Midlands coming up soon, and there will be some more coming up. So keep an eye on his socials, but it'd be really great to see all the support. So if if you can't go and support alongside, please do watch it and share it. But if you could go there, be a voice for the pigs. These animals are being gassed alive. Like, you know, I've stood outside of these slaughterhouses and, like, you know, it's heartbreaking hearing their screams, and you know, that footage is incredible because it's the first footage in the UK, but we need to talk about it.
And it is harrowing, but that's the realities, unfortunately, of what we're up against. And that's why it's so important, isn't it?
And it's hidden. That's the issue with it. Like, you know, a lot of the other methods of slaughter is, at least people will say, oh, the animal's stunned. Like a lot of people will know
Justified,
that, and like they'll at least know that, and like they've kind of made peace in their head. I'm not saying that's right or whatever, but you know, that's how, you know, when you speak to a non-vegan, that they already know about the stunning. But when you speak to a non-vegan about pigs, they have no idea about the gassing. They have no idea about these gas chambers that are, you know, pumping CO2 and burning these pigs from the inside out. It's an atrocious way to die. So, you know, it's awful.
It really is. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about a brand called Daiya. Now, they're a 100% plant-based brand, and they've recently released an advert which has their cheese, but it's using a meat-based burger. A meat burger.
Yeah.
What's
a
it called?
cow burger.
A cow burger. A cheeseburger with non-dairy cheese on it, basically. Why have we completely forgotten how to talk about normal
We could
meat?
do it. We could do it. Yeah, so basically it's an interesting pretense because it's, like Faye said, it's a 100% plant-based company that prides themselves on being 100% plant-based. They say that in the advert, and they're using their vegan cheeses with a beef burger, which is obviously a cow, and that's really interesting because obviously it's kind of like contradicting.
It is,
like a little bit, but it's not targeted at vegans.
No.
Like, and it's really interesting to see ads doing this because you've got the Oatleys being more and more like vegan, and you've got Flora being more vegan. Like, their adverts are becoming more like, you know, it's no cow, like all this kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see the other side and to see all of these plant-based companies and plant-based foods things also targeting flexitarians and people who just want to reduce, or lactose intolerant people as well.
Completely.
Them.
And that's what they say, isn't it? This is clearly an advert. Yes, it's from a vegan company for all intents and purposes, but it's aimed at flexitarians, it's aimed at vegetarians, it's aimed at those people who are trying to meat reduce, like you say, and I think it's great. I mean, it also bridges the gap a little bit, like it's the whole, you know, like one step at a time. And that's how a lot of people do become vegan.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to say. Like, I think it's fair for both of us to agree that we don't agree with okaying eating animals, and like, it's weird for me. Like, I feel like it's sometimes a bit weird seeing an advert that's like okaying and like normalizing seeing an animal product as food. However, I understand that not everyone's like me, and I understand that like society is grayscale, like you said, like people do make step changes, and if cheese is a massive thing, like a lot of non-vegans will be like, I can't give up cheese, vegan cheese is rubbish. So if they can show that, you know, you've won over the meat eaters with the cheese, then actually there are so many good vegan like meat alternatives that, you know, compare really well. I mean, I can't remember, to be fair, but compare really well to their meat counterparts. And you know, if they can tackle the cheese issue for meat eaters, then, you know, the transition to veganism is going to be easier.
Completely. And this is a Canadian company, and they said that 11% of Canadians describe themselves now as flexitarian, which is a bigger number. You know, it's higher than I thought. So actually, it shows that kind of consciousness is shifting, but a lot of people just don't know how to get there. Yeah. And I know we find it easy because we're in that, you know, we're in that echo chamber and we're in that bubble, but I get it. A lot of people don't, or, you know, they just haven't really thought about it. So it's just kind of making the transitions easier for people. And I think it's very important to remember it's not aimed at vegans. Vegans aren't going to like it. That's okay. No. It's not for you. Sometimes just keep out of it. You know, like, it's true. Yeah. So I think it's great.
But also, if it makes like one more vegan, then that would be amazing.
I mean, definitely, that's the whole point, isn't it? But if those 11% people over the next, say, 2 years or whatever become vegan, and then they've got a lifetime of that, it's great.
But basically, what do you think? Tell us, what do you think? Do you agree with the advert? Do you think the advert is ethically right? Or do you think it's really clever marketing that is going to working a long game rather than a short game? So I think that's amazing that there are adverts like this. I think I have like an ethical question mark about it, but I think that's my own issue. But if I separate my brain and think of a non-vegan, exactly. So that's what the marketing is. The marketing isn't to me or you or to Gary the cameraman behind us. It's to these non-vegans that are struggling to find a good alternative, and they're like, whoa, actually meat eaters are eating this vegan cheese. Oh wow, let's try it.
And it's the little soft touches, and then they kind of put the picture together. Like even the other week, I gave Gina some like Cathedral City, and she was like, "Oh my god, this literally tastes the same." And she was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get this," and you're like.
You're like,
yeah,
hey, you're nerdy there.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
I love the soft little vegan things. Whenever like someone says something, you're like, oh. You can't like act too excited as well. You've got to be chilled about it. You're like, yeah, that's really cool. That's
you know, your choice.
Yeah, you're like, your personal choice. We're going to round off. Sorry.
Go for it.
We're going to round off by giving a little plug to the new campaign, 50 by 25. Yes. Jasmine, campaigner, has been working so hard on this for the last year and a bit, and Erin, our other campaigner, is now taken over from it. And oh my gosh, it's such a great campaign. And similar to what we were just talking about with the cheese, we're not asking vegans to go 50% plant-based. We are asking restaurants, those big chains and even small independents to put 50% of their menu as plant-based. How cool would that be?
That would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, just think of that shift straight away from going from like lucky for counting two different options to having 50%.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I mean, Waggers is already there.
Oh, we've got Wagamama's on board.
Oaxaca as well. Like,
these are big chains, and this is like purposeful. This is like, we can really see a big change with this. If we can get the corporations and get the brands on side, that's huge. Yeah. That's brilliant.
So what we're asking our listeners and our supporters is send the campaign to any restaurant people that you know. If you have a local restaurant that is already open to plant-based foods and already has some plant-based options on their menu, send them the campaign, get them the support, get them to understand the environmental impacts of having more plant-based. Like, there are so many facts on the website that are catered for restaurant owners or restaurant chefs or anything. So yeah, we need your help to share it. There are some little cards that Jasmine has designed that you can kind of leave in the restaurants yourself and help do some outreach with that way. So it's really cool. It's really exciting. So keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, we're just going to give a big shout out to everybody so far who's watched the podcast. We've had such a good season and we've had some really good kind of comments this time round. I mean, personally, I've looked at Crip Anderson from Christspiracy. I've spoken to Georgie Purcell, who's brilliant. You spoke to Emma Hackinson, didn't you?
That was so cool. I did. We spoke to Eflin Ed, like talking about his outreach experience, talked to Mark Wakeling, I think that's his surname, and talking about Amberwood Animal Sanctuary. Oh my gosh, Captain Paul Watson. There were so many amazing people. It was so cool. So if you haven't listened to it, and you can watch it as well. Our videographer has done an amazing job with like making it all on YouTube, so you can watch it. Or watch it on, or listen to it on Spotify.
You can listen to it as well.
And Apple Music
Spotify,
as well.
Apple Music, all the usual places. Yeah. We've also got it, and big shout out to Jane Velez Mitchell in America. Thank you, because she's been plugging a lot of our content on Unchained TV, and I do want to give a shout out to her as well, especially if you're listening to this overseas. She does some great stuff on there. She's got some great guests, and so
amazing stuff.
It's nice to kind of work with her as well.
Yeah. So give it a listen if you've not listened to it yet, and let us know what you think, and maybe suggest some guests for the future, because we've got some people coming up already.
We do.
We've got some people in the pipeline already.
We have.
But if you have anyone that you really want to hear, you're like, whoa, that activist, I want to hear why they do it, let us know.
We really are on the ball, aren't we?
We're doing a great job.
Good work, Izzy.
Just pat each other on the back there. Yeah, just pat you. There we go. We've got to round this up somehow.
So thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you next month.
We promise we'll lay it low on the ADHD next time. But yeah, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.